Tonight's show, The Garage Shop Insider, is one you definitely don't want to miss. We have with us the one and only Donnie Allison sharing some great stories about his racing career. Hello everybody, welcome back to another great edition of the Garage Shop Insider. My name is Tim Packman, I'm your host, and today we're going to continue on with these great stories with legends in the NASCAR sport. And today we have with us a 10-time winner in NASCAR Cup Series competition, 3-time winner in the Ford Talladega. He's in the Alabama, Florida Stock Car Racing Hall of Fame, International Motorsports Hall of Fame, and for 23 years this man held the best finish by a rookie in the Indy 500 until some guy named Nigel Mansell came along and took that away from him. Donnie Allison, how are you? Thanks for being with us today.
Thank you, Tim. That was a pretty good introduction.
You like the introduction? I could have gone on, but well, you earned every bit of that.
Well, a little bit, yeah.
All right, that's good. So you drove the Ford Talladegas. That was your car that you drove. When you first got your hands on that car, you got behind the wheel. What is it you really liked about them?
Well, I was very fortunate, Tim. I drove for Banjo Matthews, which was really a Ford guy all the way around. Holman Moody got credit for a lot of the stuff that Banjo did. But anyway, I was in on the very, very first test of the Ford Talladega.
Where'd that take place?
At Daytona Beach.
Okay.
And it was Holman and Moody, Ralph Moody and David Pearson in the Talladega. Banjo and I had a Torino, and Leroy and Junior had a Mercury Cyclone.
So Leroy Yarborough and Junior Johnson.
Yeah, Leroy
Okay.
Yarborough. Yeah. And our job that day was to make our cars go as fast as we could make them go and go through tech.
And get through tech.
I mean, that was the main thing. I mean, you know,
Yeah.
you could make them go fast with no way to get through tech. But anyway, so after all day, I ran about 183 and a half as fast as we could go on, and Junior and them were about 184 and a half, and Pearson and Moody and them in the Talladega was about 85 and a half. So to make a long story short, Banjo got a little aggravated because we were going to run a tire test, and he went to Ford and told him that he had to make his car go faster than it would go if they were done with it. So they said yes. So anyway, he told me to go to town or do whatever I wanted to do. He's going to work on the car. I stayed and watched, and we ran that afternoon. When I got in the car, he said, Donnie, he said, watch this thing. You ain't going to drive like I drove before.
Okay.
My first time lap, after I went back out, was 185 and a half. That's 2 mile an hour faster than I'd run previously. Of course, when I came in, I was about as wide as that sheet of paper in front of you there, and Banjo was laughing. I said, yeah, we got to tighten this thing up.
So what was the difference when you went in?
Well, he moved the nose out and all that stuff, and it made it, the difference between the Ford Talladega and the Dodge Daytona, my thinking, they already had the nose stuck on the ground, so they had to do something in the back. That's why they built that wing on the back. That's what made the Dodge such a good driving car. Okay. We didn't have that. We had the nose on the ground, but our back was trying to get off the ground. And but anyway, it was a treat to be part of that and watch it happen. You know, I'll never forget, we run into Talladega the very first time we were going to run against the Dodges, and Bobby went out and knocked the whole nose off his Dodge right at the very first lap. And it was a fiasco, Ford against Dodge. They had an engineer, Larry Radcap. He was all the time measuring on my back windows on my car.
Right.
It was a treat.
So when you say you were loose, now we're talking 1969 loose versus.
I'm talking about loose.
Versus 2021 loose, right?
I'm not talking about these guys now talking about loose. I'm talking about loose.
So you're loose. The back end was.
Loose.
Loose.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not even on the ground.
Okay. That loose. When you went that fast that second time, were you like, you could notice the big difference?
Well, evidently, because when I come in, I must have been a little bit lighter colored than I was when I went out. But yeah, I definitely got my attention. See, back in our day, we ran into turn 3 in the bottom and ended up in turn 4 in the top.
Right.
Not because we wanted to.
Oh.
But that's what it took us to get through there. Even with the Dodge Daytona and everything, as good as they were handling, you know, they could run a little bit lower line than we could run. But back in our day, and that's what Bobby Allison always said, he wanted his car to handle. He didn't care about how fast it was. He wanted to be able to drive it.
Right.
Well, I was a little bit different. I wanted to go as fast as it could go, and I'd worry about driving it later.
Okay. And as a result, you did quite well with that.
We had pretty good luck. I was very proud of my stint with Banjo Matthews, and like I've told many people, it was a thrill to know that man.
What was it about him that made him so special? I know his dedication and his attention to detail was incredible.
Well, excuse my French, he was just so damn smart.
Yeah.
I mean, he knew what he was doing. He knew about a race car. He knew what made him go fast. He used to tell me all the time, the guy that can open the gas pedal wide open the soonest and hold it is going to win. Now, all you got to do is just think about that.
I know. As you said that, I'm thinking.
And
so best into the corner.
A lot of
best
people put their foot on the throttle, but they don't match wide open.
Right.
If he passed me at Daytona or Talladega in practice 10 times, he asked me 10 times, can you hold it wide open?
Right.
And if I didn't say yes right away, he'd go to doing something.
Okay. So when you did get to the point of holding it wide open, was that something you had to build the confidence up with the car?
No,
you were just ready to go.
We would run a little bit different than we do now. I don't see how these guys now go out and qualify or run the practice lap. I wanted to run a practice lap and see if my steering was straight and everything else in my car was straight where I wanted it.
Right.
Now these I don't know what I want to call them, race car drivers or not, but these people we got going now, if they go out and hold a car wide open and run like they run now, I don't understand.
Okay. When you started racing against the Daytonas, the competitive nature between Ford and Dodge was incredible.
Yeah, and the competitive between me and my brother and me and Dave Marcus and them guys over there was incredible also. I mean, they were very good friends, but I didn't like it when he beat me.
Well, wait a minute. Of your wins, Bobby was second or third for a large majority of those.
The most of them.
Most of them?
Yep.
So let's talk. So he's your brother. I mean, when you get in the car, we have the Bush brothers now. When you get in the car, he's just another driver, or is that your brother?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. See, Talladega one time, he kept motioning for me, come on, go with him, and I kept saying no. And about the third time we come down the front straightaway, he did it, and I gave him a number 1 sign, and he pulled down going to turn 1, and I went by him, and I fell out of the race for some reason other than after. Somebody said something about working with my brother out there. I said, was my brother out there? I mean, you work with people regardless of whether it was. Now, Bobby was a good one to work with, but not as good as some that I worked with.
Right.
But you find the best opportunity you had, and you go with that guy. The guy got a lot of flack from a lot of people, but Darrell Waltrip was very, very easy to draft with.
Right. Why is that?
I don't know.
Oh.
Cale Yarborough wasn't. Buddy Baker, you couldn't draft with Buddy Baker. I mean, you couldn't tell whether Buddy Baker was going to go in the corner in the top, bottom, and middle, or whether he was going to go in the pits.
Just because
there was he's a fine guy. I'm not talking bad.
No, I get that. But
I'm
his
just saying. And see, Richard Petty was a fine guy to draft with.
So, because Buddy was tough because he would just pick a different line, he wasn't consistent, or?
Nah, you just didn't know where he was going next.
Oh, okay, got it. Right.
He didn't know where he was going next.
And he won a few times doing that.
Yeah.
When you started driving the Talladegas, what was the consensus amongst your fellow Ford drivers? Like, we have a really good car here, and then you guys went out and won a lot of races in there.
Well, I think that was in the numbers, Tim. We had more of them than the Dodge. The Dodge guys at the big tracks, they have 2 extra, but the shorter tracks, they be down some. And we didn't run, Banjo and I didn't run all the races, but 5 other Ford cars did. And at least 4 every time. And, it's hard to beat the numbers. And, we had good race cars, good handling cars. Ralph Moody was an exceptionally good chassis man, along with Banjo. And the Dodge cars, they were good. Bobby was a little bit different, I think, from days gone by. He was really, really, really concerned about chassis.
Bobby was.
Yes, more so than he was about everything. He worried about his engine and all that stuff too, but he wanted to be able to drive his car.
Right.
And sometimes he couldn't run a Ford and done too good.
Okay. So you talk about, your wins. We talked many times. The elusive one, and we all know the story, is the Daytona 500, and there was the one where you were really close. But you helped people to wins. I think we talked about that. You were.
Yeah, well, everybody always talked about Petty winning 7 times.
Right.
I said, yeah, I know. I gave him 4 of them.
How's that?
Well, 70, 74, 69.
Yeah.
Anyone that he won, you look where I was.
Real close.
79.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that one was. We all know that. You guys just.
Cale gave him that one.
Right. I'm not gonna get you wound up on that one because I know you think about it.
I don't get wound up.
All right.
I
Let me ask you. Okay, when you see the replays of that, you're going down the backstretch. I mean, when you're in that car and you guys are just beating the crap out of each other going down there? When you see it again, what goes through your mind?
Nothing. I just know how out of control both of us were.
Yeah.
See, that race, gets talked about all the time, and it's sort of like the baseball, basketball, football game now. Everybody tells you how the guy shot the shot, won the game, and lost the game, whatever. Yeah. After that race was over, Bill France Jr. got me in the garage area, and he says, Donnie, he said, you should have let Cale have the apron because when he got to turn 3, we had to back off. I said, Billy, I didn't put him in the apron. He put himself in the apron. And if we'd have got to turn 3, I'd have been a rotating beacon. I wouldn't have been around the racetrack. And that's all the conversation was.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
Well, unbeknown to all the people, Bobby Allison protested. He appealed because they fined all 3 of us $6,000, but they put Bobby and I on probation and they didn't put Cale on probation. And that pissed Bobby Allison off, to say the least.
Yeah, sure.
So he appealed. I didn't know anything about the appeal. They called me and tell me I'm going to go to appeal. What's this? So I go to Bobby and, yep, I appealed it. The day before I left to go to Atlanta, I was going to the Red Roof Inn down by the racetrack for this appeal. I get a phone call. And Pat called me to the phone. She says, I don't know who it is. They want to talk to you. I answer the phone. Hello, Donnie. They have a film that shows a wreck. Make them show it to you. Who is this? They have a film that shows a wreck. Make them show it to you. Click.
Mystery caller.
Hung up.
Okay.
Tim Packman. That was 1979.
Yeah.
I still do not know to this day who was on that phone. I knew who coordinated all this stuff. I knew who got the film. Jackie Root got the film. Bill France Jr. sent it to the appeal. So we go to this appeal. To hurry and make a long story short. We go in there and check in. It's Bill Gazaway, Les Richter, John Riddle, Joe Epton. There was another one, somebody I can't.
So all the top brass of NASCAR.
Yeah, it's all these guys. They're going to listen to the appeal.
Sure.
We're in a motel room, and there's a round table in the corner like this. There's 2 chairs sitting there and a screen with a TV screen sitting up on it. And so we all shook hands. How y'all doing? All this stuff. And Gazaway says, I'd like to ask a favor of you guys. He said, we'd like to show this to you one at a time. Bobby said, show what? He said, the wreck. Bobby said, I didn't appeal the wreck. Oh. So they said, we have a room across the hall. Would you mind waiting over? We'll show Donnie this.
Right.
So now same thing, 5. He said, we got 5 films. We want to show them in entirety.
Right.
That's the wreck, not the whole race. And then you comment after the film shows. Okay. So they put the first one on. It was CBS that everybody saw across the lake. The cars crashed. You couldn't tell who did what. Show me another film. Put on a second film. It was another CBS, but a little bit more down in turn 4. You could see the cars going like this. Right. So anyway, show me another film. The third one was the one I was looking for. See, and I told Billy France in the garage area that afternoon that Cale hit me in the back bumper first and turned me sideways. I lifted. And when I lifted is when he hit me in the door.
Right.
Now I was pointing toward the infield because I was knocked loose. All right, he hits me in the door. Well, he goes in the infield, and I go out in the racetrack. From that time on, he's out of control. I'm out of control. Okay, so anyway, I'll never forget, Tim, if I live to be 200 years old, what happened when that film got done. Les Richter popped out of his chair and he said, quote, "Why in the hell hadn't we seen that film?"
Oh,
End of appeal.
wow.
Now, I've never heard any more about any of it. I heard they put Cale on probation and he appealed it. I never heard anything about that. Never heard any more about it from
Didn't know about
anybody.
that story.
But that's the gospel truth.
Still don't know who called. Perfect. That's great. So I'm glad we talked about that, because I don't think people know about that.
You know, it's been told all different ways,
Right.
But when we're going down the back straightaway, now I'm sure that David, Marcus, or Bobby can confirm this. When you get hit like we got hit, the only advantage I had doing that, I could have straightened my car back out on the wall.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I could have got against the wall and straightened my car back out and made it.
Right.
But from the second hit on, we were out of control.
Right.
I mean, he's trying to get his car back he's in the dirt. I'm in the racetrack sideways, and I'm still running 190 mile an hour. You don't straighten one out running 190 mile an hour, half a foot.
Yeah. Let's go. We got side. That's okay. The Talladegas, the 3 times you won in it, was it dominating wins? Were you racing to the finish? Because back in the day, there was times 2 or 3 of you were on the lead lap, and the rest of the field wasn't.
Every win I got in Talladega, I had a run for.
Okay.
Back in our day, there was a couple times when guys would be way ahead, laps and laps and laps and laps. But on the super speedways, that didn't happen. You know, I mean, that was more on short tracks, or like maybe Dover, at the mile at Dover. I don't remember the instances exactly right to the point of when I won with it, but I promise you I had to work for it.
So Rockingham was one of your wins. That's a mile track there.
Now, if you don't work at Rockingham, you don't. You might as well stay in town.
I think your brother was 3rd in that one.
Mm-hmm.
So you guys were, the few of them that you had in the Talladega.
Well, we were pretty good racers.
Yeah.
Bobby and myself, he's had a lot more wins than me, but he also had a lot more races than I ran. And I often think about now, they talk about it, how many races would I might have won if I'd have run 400 or 500.
Right. How many full seasons did you run?
Never.
You never ran a full season?
I ran 242 total races in my whole Cup career.
Okay. Why? Just because it was the...
I mean, I drove for Banjo. He didn't run all the races.
Okay.
I never had the opportunity to run a car in all the races. I tried to do it at Dyguard, and that was a fiasco when I started that thing. But I often question, people ask, what would you change if you could change something?
Today, you mean?
Yeah. I think probably the only thing I would do different, I would solicit a good car to run for the championship. And if I'd done that, I probably would have won it.
So guys used to move around quite a bit on teams back in the day, as well as, and that's like they do today too, but it wasn't unheard of for you guys to run for a couple owners a year. Is that correct, or was it?
Well, that was Bobby Allison used to do that a lot.
No. Oh, okay.
Not Donnie.
Okay.
I ran for Banjo. I'd go home and run my short track cars, and I was, even when I drove for Hoss Ellington, I never ran more than 16 races. I was content to go home and run my short track car and win.
Okay. So in the Talladega Daytona, when that went away, did you know it was coming? Did you kind of sense that NASCAR was going to?
Yes, because NASCAR got more involved. See, back in the day when we ran the Talladegas and they ran the Dodge Daytonas, the mechanics did the work. NASCAR would give you a set of rules to go by, but we'd all go home. Harry I was probably a master at it, of doing the body work and stuff, like still go through the templates, but not be anywhere near in the configuration they got it, and make it go faster. I mean, that's what made NASCAR what it was. I mean, we'd go with the Fords, and Banjo would call me on the phone. He said, "I'm going to try this week. Try this, or do this, do that, do the other thing." Now that don't happen.
Right.
See, in our day, we built the cars. When I'm talking about we, I'm talking about driver, mechanics, and engineers, and all the people together built the car. Now NASCAR built them.
when you would build the cars and race them, what was your satisfaction knowing that you had a good car underneath you, know that your hands literally...
My satisfaction was when it outrun the hell out of the rest of them.
Perfect. I wish you would have run full seasons because your competitive nature is what probably propelled
Well,
you.
you know, I ran a full season. I just didn't run the Cup. I
Right.
ran late models the whole time. See, for about 3 years, I won the majority of most of the late model races I ran.
So what they're doing here at the garage shop, you know, you saw the Ford Talladega back there. When you walk in and see something like that, what's one of the first things that come to your mind?
Well, I think if you had a camera set up back there, you'd see my chin hit the floor when I saw that thing. The guy working on the nose reminded me of at the racetrack at Daytona, Banjo making a Talladega out of a Torino. I mean, it just looked exactly like it.
Yeah.
I said the only thing wrong is it's the wrong number. It's 98 instead of 27.
Oh, would that be like this car here?
Yeah, that's it.
And you have a die cast and working, if someone wanted one of these, where would they get one?
Go on the internet, Donnie Allison.
.com?
Yeah,
Right.
.com.
Right.
Some, I don't know. Pat
Right.
takes care of
Pat
that.
takes care, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, but you'll sign it and send
Oh,
it,
yeah.
right? Okay, that's good because people will see
Yeah,
these and now with this coming
I heard
out.
Bobby talking in one conversation. Wasn't many of his. I know there's not many of those left.
Okay, so get them while you can, is that what you're saying?
Well, I know. I mean, I'm just saying.
No.
If they try to get one and there is none, I'm just telling the reason.
Perfect. Some of your favorite memories driving the Talladega?
Probably the very first time I drove the Talladega car itself at Daytona, I couldn't believe. And see, we had worked on the chassis quite a bit in the tests, so I was pretty prepared. But it was fast. It was a fast car. And, you know, we had good engines back then. The Chrysler cars had good engines. And what we did, I feel like, I may be wrong about this, but I feel like that the guy talked about Larry Rathcap and this bunch that Ronnie Householder, which run the Chrysler deal, and Charlie Gray, which was my boss at Ford.
At Ford, yeah.
We put racing behind because we built too good of cars.
You put it behind because you built too good
Yeah,
cars.
and they had to do something.
Okay.
I mean, you can't run races at 208 or 10 mile an hour. You know, look at it now. They can't.
Yeah.
They can't run them at 190 mile an hour.
Well, restrictor plates kind of did a big step there.
Well, it's to my. I feel like restrictor plate ruined racing.
Really?
It didn't help it.
How's that?
It's you can't race.
Okay.
You know, I feel bad for the guy that won the race at Daytona this year. He didn't win the race. They wrecked and give it to him.
Oh.
You know, when we talk about winning a race, when Bobby won the Daytona 500, he raced Donnie Allison's butt off. Okay.
88, yep.
And there's a difference. You know, now there's a lineup of cars there, a whole lineup of cars. And no matter if you're first or 15th, if you just don't get crashed, you might win the race.
Right.
Or get the win.
Get the win,
Get
right.
the checkered flag, or whatever the hell they call it.
So when people approach you and they go, "Hey, I remember the time I remember when you," I mean, what's the one memory that they come to you most about?
Well, usually when somebody says something like that, I remember exactly
Sure.
what happened.
Right.
And probably the most they talk about is either the 79 Daytona 500 or the race at Talladega when we had the drag race at the end when I won the race in the Woods Brothers car. You know, the different places, different things about different races. Now, I enjoyed Rockingham because it's driver track. I couldn't win at Darlington, but that was my favorite.
Really?
Oh yeah, I loved it
Why is that?
because you had to drive.
Okay.
You couldn't ride it. You couldn't ride at Darlington. You had to drive a car.
Some people dread that track.
Well, I'll not get into that.
Your legacy of when people say 10 years from now, boy, Donnie Allison sure was. What would you like them to? One thing you'd like them to say about you?
A tough competitor.
Tough competitor. I'll give you that.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much for coming on. Donnie, I appreciate your time and your stories and your insight. Fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim.
All right. If you enjoyed tonight's show, The Garage Shop Insider, wait till next week when we bring on Mr. Wingtips and Goodyear hat himself, Dave Marcus.